Hello young scholars, welcome to a graphic design project. As you may notice, this is a Google slide and it is brand new. We're going to set this up in an easy way, so we're going to get rid of this themes box here. We're going to click our mouse and drag it over these things. We're going to hit delete because we don't need that stuff. And I want to change this to a square. The way I do that is I go to File, and I go all the way down to Page Setup. And instead of widescreen, 16 by 9, which is what most of your televisions or computer monitors are set to, we are going to change that to custom. And it automatically defaults to inches, which is kind of interesting. We have a couple of other units we can use, but let's go ahead and stay with inches. What I really want is a square, so I want that first number to be equal to my second number. So we're going to change that to 10 by 10 and hit apply. And you'll notice that the stage that we are working with is now a square. What we are going to do today is we are going to recreate the Instagram logo. So I'm going to open a new tab, and as of the viewing of this video, I hope this website still exists. It's called Brand Palettes, P-A-L-L-E-T-E-S. It is actually at brandpalettes.com, and it's a really cool website. What this is it gives you all the different color schemes for various brands. And we're going to scroll all the way down to I, which is where Instagram lives, and click that. And it's going to show me what my logo looks like, and it's going to give me all the colors that show up in this logo. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the shape, then we're going to fill in the colors, and we have a lot of colors to fill in. That's actually going to take the longest out of this whole project. So let's go ahead and start. Let's go back to our presentation, and what I need you to do is go up to your shapes, and we have a lot of different shapes to choose from. We have a regular square, we have circles, we have all sorts of crazy cool shapes that we can pick. What you need to pick is this second one. It is actually called the rounded rectangle if you mouse over it. Click that, then go back to your stage, and what you're going to do is you're going to start in this upper corner here, but before you draw the shape, I want you to hold down the Shift key, and don't let go. It's the key directly to the left of your Z. So we're going to click and hold and drag all the way here. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to take up the entire space, just most of it. Then we're going to click and hold, and we're going to drag this around until we see that it's centered. See that red line there? That lets me know that it is centered vertically, meaning up and down. Now I want it to be centered horizontally, meaning left and right. So I'm going to move it just a little bit. There we go. I want that perfect cross right in the middle, and that lets me know that my shape is perfectly centered. Now if I click away, I notice that this is a rounded square, but if I go back to the Instagram logo, it's rounded slightly differently. It's a little more rounded up here than this square is. So what I do is I'm going to click here, and if you notice all the way up here, you've got your blue corners or your blue boxes here that we can change the size of, but you may not have noticed this little yellow diamond that should exist right here. If I click and hold, I can actually change the shape of my rounded square. If I make it completely rounded, it's a circle. If I completely remove the rounding, it becomes a square. But I want it to be just slightly more rounded than it was when we first built it. And this looks very much like an app on your phone because, well, that's what we're building. Next, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start plugging in the colors that make the Instagram logo recognizable. So we're going to click our shape, and then we are going to go up to our fill color icon right here. Looks like a paint bucket, kind of. So we are going to click that, and we have two options. We have solid, which comes with all these options down here, and we have gradient, which means that we move from one color to another. If you notice here, these gradients move from red to white, yellow to white, and this one kind of happens in a straight line, so from bottom up, and this one is called a radial gradient, meaning it happens from the inside out. So we are going to create our own gradient by going down to Custom and pressing that little plus button here. What that does is it pops open a new window for us that looks like this, Custom Gradient, and now we get to pick the colors that go into our gradient. And we have a few things we can do. We can make it linear, we can make it radial, like I said, either one side to the other or inside out. We can change the angle, which is kind of fun. It sort of rotates where those colors start and end. And we can even add multiple colors, like we're not stuck with just two colors. As of right now, we have a light gray and a dark gray, but these are not the colors that we want. We want something a little bit cooler. So let's go back to our brand palettes and let's count the amount of colors that we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 colors we need altogether, and we're starting off with 2 now. So if we have 2 squares, we can add a color here in the form of this little circle in the middle. That gives us 3, 4, 5, 6, and notice that they're starting to become a little closer together, so I'll space them out a little bit. You should do the same thing. That way it's easier to retrieve later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what I want. Now your job at the moment is to space these apart as evenly as you can. Unfortunately, there's no way to make them 100% spaced unless you were able to count how many times these little things tick every time I move them, but we're not looking for perfect, we're looking for good. Remember, perfect is the enemy of done. We want to get this finished, and we want to get it finished as soon as possible. So space these out as evenly as you can get them. Make sure no one is any wider than the other one if you can. And this looks good enough to me, I think. I like it. So now we can start plugging in our colors. From here, it's a lot of back and forth between the Color Palettes website and our actual set of Google Slides. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with our first color, which is a sort of more traditional blue. So we are going to copy this hex color. The reason it's called a hex color, by the way, is because hex is a prefix for 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different digits. I don't know if digits is the right word because they're not all numbers. But we have 6 different digits, is what I will call them, to paste into our Google Slides gradient. So we're going to copy this set here. You can copy it with the hashtag or the pound sign if you want to. And we're going to go ahead and start off with our very leftmost square. We click that and we see that it's highlighted blue. Every time you click one of these colors, it changes the highlight based on which one is selected. So we're going to start with our leftmost square. We're going to click this button where it says Select Gradient Stop Color. We're going to add a custom color. And we are going to paste that set of digits in here. Now notice after I paste that in, it didn't initially change to gray. There are a couple of things that we can do. One of the easiest things we can do is just move around with our arrow keys. For some reason, Google needs to register some sort of change before it changes the color. If that doesn't work, you can actually press Shift and 3 and add that hash yourself, and that may give you what you need ultimately. Once you get that color, you can press OK. And notice that this square has changed to blue, and our gradient has changed a little bit as well. And we're just going to do the same thing for all of these different dots in our final square. Moving on to the second color is sort of a purple. We can copy this set of digits. By the way, I double click, should highlight all digits at the same time. Hold down Control and press C without letting go of Control. Now I let go back to the logo, circle, get that color, new custom color, paste that hex code in there, and it gives me that sort of purple color, and I hit OK. That's just a way to save you a little bit of time, so that way these 10 different colors don't take up all day. Press that new dot, back to the color palette, get this more eggplant sort of purple, so I double click, Control C to copy, back to this dot, custom color, highlight and press Control V to paste, and we just do this all the way down the line. More of a magenta color, Control C, press the dot, custom color, highlight, Control V. You'll end up getting pretty quick at this with some practice. Control C, dot, custom, highlight, Control V. Now we're on to red. If at any point you need to pause this video to get your colors in, please feel free to do so. We're on to this sort of peachy color. Next color is also kind of peachy, just not as ripe. Uh-oh, did I get that one already? F7737. Nope, did not get that one. F7737 will be the next color. See, if you make mistakes, you can just go back and double check. Yep, that's definitely a different color in the gradient. Here we go, almost an orangey color. And as you notice too, as I'm pasting these colors in, the gradient is changing along the way. And now we have one final color, which is a really sort of light yellow. We do that on our last square, that's our stop color. And we now have a very cool looking Instagram gradient. And so what we can do now is we can press OK. And notice that our shape has changed a bit. It is now going from this blue all the way to a yellow, almost kind of like a sunset, which is kind of fun. So we do have one problem that we've run into. If we go back to our logo, notice that the gradient isn't exactly, it's linear, but it doesn't start and stop in the same place. Like we've got a yellow that sort of stops here in the bottom left. The blue sort of stops here in the upper left as well. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to change the angle at which our gradient happens. Go back to Slides, click your shape, go up to your Paint Bucket tool, and instead of clicking on this check-marked gradient that we have already, if we press the plus button, it'll bring up the options to edit the gradient, but it'll give us the gradient that already is there, which is nice. We don't have to go back in and redo our color codes. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to change the angle at which this gradient happens. 90 degrees is straight up and down. And any sort of variation of 45 will give you nice even turns. So 135, 180. Notice how the gradient changes a little bit. What we're looking for here is about 105. What's going to happen is we have our blue still kind of in the wrong place, but that's okay. Our yellow ends up being pretty close at 105. We just press OK. And we now have a pretty good looking Instagram gradient with that sort of off-center angle that we want. Now the next step, we're going to take our shape and we're going to hold down Control and we're going to press D for duplicate. And what we're going to do here is we are going to change this duplicated shape to white. And it's going to be a solid white color, not a gradient white. And we're going to go back and we're going to try and mimic the border thickness here. Think of this white shape here as what we've just created. We need to kind of get this width as close as we can. So what we can do is we can hold down the Shift key and grab one of our corner blue boxes and just shrink it a little bit. We're going to take our shape here and center it again and see if we have lined it up. We're close, but not quite. I feel like the actual logo is a little bit thicker, so I'm going to hold down Shift again, scale it down just a little bit, and I feel like that's pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there, and I can always change it later if I want to. So if I go back and feel as though maybe I just want it to be a little thicker, I can scale it down just ever so slightly, recenter it, and move on. Now the next thing we need here is this circle with another sort of white circle in it. And you might think to yourself, we can do the same thing. We could do a background with a duplicated shape. But luckily for us, Google Slides has a donut shape. If we go back up to our shapes and go to the first Shapes tab, down here we literally have a shape called donut. So we're going to use donut, and we're going to create a perfect circle by holding down Shift. Right in the middle, we're going to click and drag our mouse as we hold down Shift to about where we think it's supposed to be. That looks all right to me. Could be a little bigger maybe, so let's increase that size a little bit. We're going to center it up, and we are going to do the same Paint Bucket Fill tool that we already know how to use. The nice thing though is that our gradient already is going to be a custom color if we select gradient. Here it is down here, and it's even tilted for us already. Pretty cool. So let's click that. Now, if we check it out, we may notice some more problems. How do we keep running into these problems? Well, that's life, unfortunately. We run into a lot of problems and we have to figure out how to fix them. First problem is that this donut is not the same shape or size necessarily as this donut. One way to fix that is we have a little diamond here, the same way we had it up here for this shape. We have a little yellow diamond. If we click and drag that, it brings the inner circle out a bit and makes the shape a little closer to what we need it to be. I've made mine a little too big, so I can just bring it back. I feel like that's pretty good. Now the other problem we have is notice that this purple blue is up here and the yellow's down here. We don't have that here. Notice, too, it almost looks like there's a gradient in the background. It's almost like we just cut out the logo to reveal the gradient that lives in the background. There's only so much you can do with free software like Google Slides, so we're going to have to fudge it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and start with that pink and work our way almost to yellow, maybe sort of an orange. So we go back to our donut shape. We go up to our paint bucket tool. We're in gradient already, which is good. And we're going to go back down and press that plus button one more time. Gets us back into our gradient tool. So we don't need these blues. We don't need this yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these dots and I'm going to push them off to the sides here. Let me zoom in a little bit to show you. I'm going to push them off a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go this way. And I'm creating some space in the middle for these pinks and oranges to really kind of cut through. I still have a little bit of blue up here that I don't want, so what I might do is I might click this little box right here and press remove. I might even remove this blue square as well, which I guess I can't do that. So I'm just going to push my purple as far off to the side as I can, kind of eclipse that blue. Notice over here what happens as I move that shape. We kind of get what we're looking for. We're sort of trying to start with a pinkish. And so, once again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be pretty good. And so we're getting more of a pink that fades into an orange with a little clip of yellow, and I think we've done that here. Basically what we've done is we've carved out some space in the middle so those oranges can sort of shine through. We're going to press OK, and now our circle here looks kind of exactly how I want it to. Go us. Now the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to get this color here, and it kind of goes from a purple to a lighter purple. So we go up to our shapes, and circle is going to be our first shape on the left, second shape down. Hold shift to create your perfect circle. And now our gradient is all off. Is our circle the right size? It's pretty close. In between the corner here and your circle, but let's fix that gradient. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to this second gradient that we've created, the tilted one, and we're going to do the same process. We're going to select that second gradient first. We have a check mark on it now. We're going to press this plus button, and we're going to create some more space, but the colors we really want are this sort of more traditional eggplant purple fading into a pinkish. So we're going to we can actually just get rid of a lot of these yellow hues because they're not in there at all. So now that we've clipped a few down, we're going to push our pink all the way over here and kind of evenly space out our purples a bit. This purple's good. I don't need this blue. So let's slide this purple all the way over and maybe bring this one back to the middle. Slightly off right probably. And now we have that sort of color that we're looking for. And if we zoom back out and take a look at it, we are done. This is the Instagram logo as close as we can make it in Google Slides. So be proud of this. You created something from nothing, and it's probably a lot better than you expected it to be. So show this off to your friends, show this off to your parents, show this off to anyone who's willing to look at it because you did something cool today.